The conflict between Russia and Ukraine has entered a new phase, one that is defined by advanced technology and new strategies. Drone warfare, once a futuristic concept, is now a daily reality. These unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, have become essential tools in modern combat. Both sides are increasingly reliant on UAVs for reconnaissance, targeting, and attacks. These drones provide real-time data and can strike with precision, changing the dynamics of the battlefield. However, the recent escalation in drone strikes has raised concerns about a wider conflict. The destruction caused by these strikes is immense, affecting both military targets and civilian areas. On March 11, 2025, Ukraine launched its largest drone attack on Moscow since the war began. This bold move was a clear message to Russia. This unprecedented assault marked a significant escalation in the conflict, signaling a potential turning point in the ongoing war. The damage was extensive, and the political ramifications were immediate. The attack has been widely condemned by Russia and its allies, but Ukraine maintains it is a legitimate military response to Russia's ongoing aggression. The international community is divided on the issue. The world watches with bated breath, wondering if this event will lead to further escalation or open doors for dialogue and a potential ceasefire. The future of this conflict remains uncertain, as both sides prepare for what comes next. In the early hours of March 11th, hundreds of drones launched by Ukrainian forces swarmed towards the Russian capital. The sky over Moscow, usually quiet and peaceful, was filled with the ominous buzzing of the approaching UAVs. Russian air defenses, caught off guard by the sheer scale of the attack, struggled to respond effectively. Explosions rocked the city as drones evading interception struck their targets. The attack focused primarily on strategic infrastructure in and around Moscow. Oil refineries, military depots, and transportation hubs were among the primary targets, demonstrating a clear intent to cripple Russia's war machine. The relentless drone assault sent shockwaves through the Russian capital, shattering the sense of security that had prevailed even as the conflict raged on in Ukrainian territories. The drone attack plunged Moscow into chaos. Flights at all three major airports, Sheremetyevo, Domodedovo, and Vnukovo, were suspended as a precautionary measure, bringing air traffic to a standstill. The usually bustling streets of Moscow were eerily deserted as residents heeded the government's advice to stay indoors. Fear and uncertainty gripped the city as the sounds of explosions and the sirens of emergency vehicles echoed through the streets. Reports of casualties started to emerge, painting a grim picture of the attack's impact on civilians. While the Ukrainian government maintains that civilian areas were not targeted, falling debris from intercepted drones caused damage and casualties. The attack left Moscow reeling, exposing the vulnerabilities of a major city, even one protected by sophisticated air defense systems, to the evolving threat of drone warfare. Among the drones deployed in the attack, one stood out, the Peklo, Ukrainian for hell. This name is fitting, as the drone has become a nightmare for its adversaries. This advanced, domestically produced drone represents a significant leap in Ukraine's drone warfare capabilities. Developed by some of the brightest minds in the country, the Peklo is a testament to Ukraine's innovative spirit and technological advancement. With a range of 700 kilometers and a speed exceeding 700 kilometers per hour, the Peklo can strike deep within Russian territory. This long-range capability allows it to reach strategic targets that were previously out of reach. Its 50-kilogram payload allows it to deliver significant damage, and its ability to be launched from various platforms, including land and potentially fighter jets, makes it a versatile and potent weapon. This flexibility in deployment means it can be used in a variety of combat scenarios, increasing its effectiveness. The Peklo's appearance in the attack on Moscow underlines Ukraine's growing technological prowess and its determination to take the fight to the enemy. This bold move has showcased Ukraine's resolve and its ability to innovate under pressure. The drone's capabilities have sent a shiver down the spines of Russian military strategists, who now have to contend with a new and potent threat on their doorstep. The Peklo has not only changed the dynamics of the battlefield but also forced a strategic rethink among Russia's top military planners. Russia's fury and retaliation. The drone attack on Moscow was met with fury in Russia. The streets of Moscow were filled with angry citizens, their voices echoing through the city as they demanded justice and retribution. The atmosphere was charged with tension and a palpable sense of urgency. Government officials and state-controlled media condemned the attack as a blatant act of terrorism, calling for swift and decisive retaliation. The rhetoric was fierce, with officials vowing to protect the nation's sovereignty and security at all costs. Military leaders have urged for a forceful response, including the use of hypersonic missiles against key Ukrainian infrastructure and military command centers. The discussions were intense, with strategies being mapped out and potential targets being identified. The Kremlin views the attack as a dangerous escalation and a direct challenge to its authority. The leadership is under immense pressure to act decisively, balancing the need for a strong response with the risks of further conflict. However, despite the calls for immediate and devastating retaliation, there are whispers of restraint within the Russian government. Some officials are advocating for a more measured approach, aware of the potential for a broader and more destructive war. Some officials recognize the risk of further escalation and the potential for catastrophic consequences. They are weighing the options carefully, considering the long-term implications of any military action. The world waits anxiously to see how Russia will respond, knowing that any action, whether measured or extreme, will have significant repercussions for the region and the world. The international community is on edge, watching closely as the situation unfolds, aware that the decisions made in the coming days could shape the future of global politics. The world reacts. The drone attack on Moscow sent shockwaves across the globe. International reactions have been mixed, reflecting the complex geopolitical landscape surrounding the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The United States, while condemning the attack on civilian infrastructure, reiterated its support for Ukraine's right to defend itself against Russian aggression. The European Union echoed these sentiments, expressing deep concern about the escalating violence. China, a close ally of Russia, called for restraint from both sides and urged a diplomatic solution to the conflict. Other global powers, including India and Brazil, have also called for de-escalation and dialogue. The attack has underscored the global ramifications of the conflict and the urgent need for a peaceful resolution. Diplomatic maneuvers. Even as tensions remain high and the threat of further escalation looms, diplomatic efforts are underway to find a path to peace. The United States and its European allies are engaged in talks with both Ukraine and Russia, seeking to broker a ceasefire and initiate meaningful negotiations. China has also expressed its willingness to play a mediating role. However, significant obstacles remain. Russia demands security guarantees and recognition of its territorial claims, while Ukraine insists on the restoration of its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Despite the challenges, the international community remains hopeful that dialogue, however difficult, offers the only viable path to ending the bloodshed and preventing a wider conflict. At a crossroads, the drone attack on Moscow marks a pivotal moment in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It has shattered the illusion of normalcy in the Russian capital and highlighted the unpredictable nature of modern warfare. The world watches with bated breath, uncertain of what the future holds. Will this act of aggression push Russia and Ukraine further down the path of destruction, or will it serve as a wake-up call, prompting both sides to seek a negotiated settlement? The coming days and weeks will be critical. The choices made by leaders in Moscow, Kyiv, and capitals around the world will determine whether this crisis escalates into a wider conflict or paves the way for a more peaceful future. The world can only hope that reason and diplomacy will prevail.